A little more than a week ago, we brought to you on East Asia Tonight a two-part series on the challenges that school teachers in East Asia faced, including one on the situation in South Korea. Well, that coverage, including a related chat with our CNA senior correspondent Lim Yun Suk in Seoul, has taken on a life of its own, sparking numerous comments from viewers. And here's a look back at some of the excerpts from the story.
This video went viral last month. It shows a third-grade student slapping the vice principal when he tried to stop the boy from leaving school without permission. He did not try to defend himself, which education experts say is understandable.
교감 스님은 뒷짐을 지고 뺨을 맞아요. 혹자는 이런 얘기합니다. 그 왜 그러지? 애를 손을 잡고 적극적으로 말리고 못하게 해야지 이런 얘기합니다. 현실을 모르는 얘기예요. 만일 그 아이의 손을 잡았다가 팔자국이 남으면 어떻게 될까요? 당연히 아동학대로 신고됩니다.
Kim Dong-seok, the director of Teachers' Rights at the Korean Federation of Teachers Association, says teachers in South Korea have suffered abuse by students and their parents for years. The issue came to light in July last year after a first-grade teacher at Soi Elementary in Seoul took her life in school. Her colleagues said she suffered harassment from parents. Her death sparked rallies calling for measures to safeguard teachers' rights. And authorities made key changes, including providing teachers with some protection from being sued for child abuse.
Following the story, we've had a slew of comments online. One viewer questioned the act of slapping a teacher, saying that he or she would get thrown out from the house for such disrespect. And this attracted more than 4,000 likes and some 50 replies. And another highlighted the issue of entitled parents and students driving teachers away from the profession. And one netizen also weighed in, suggesting that the child should be expelled. At least 1,000 thumbs up came in response. Now, there was an event yesterday to mark the anniversary of the death of elementary school teacher Lim Yun Suk, who took her own life last year after allegedly being harassed by students' parents. And our senior correspondent Lim Yun Suk joins us now to share more about it. Yun Suk, can you just tell us more about the memorial? I imagine it must have been very emotional.
Well, yes, it was. It did remind people here in South Korea of what happened 1 year ago. And there were tributes coming in from across the country here, those working in the education industry, but also others too, ordinary South Koreans, because this is the week where South Koreans are marking the first anniversary of the teacher's death. And in fact, the Korean Confederation of Teachers Association, which is one of the two major teachers unions in the country, had designated this week, starting Monday, as a period of remembrance. Now, at the memorial in Seoul, there were hundreds of teachers, education officials, and also families of that teacher who died, and also families of other teachers who have died in recent years. They also all attended this memorial service. Park Tu-young, who's the cousin of that teacher who passed away last year, he gave a speech on behalf of the family members like him who lost their loved ones due to the abuse by parents against teachers. Now, let's first listen to what he had to say.
여기 계신 모든 분들에게 부탁드리겠습니다. 교육 공동체 안에서 비극을 막고자 자살 예방에 대한 철저한 지원과 유가족들에 대한 지원을 통해 이들의 마음을 조금 헤아려 주셨으면 감사하겠습니다. 제 지금 요청은 돌아가신 고인분의 엄마 아빠의 울음입니다.
As you can see, he was very emotional, and I think it's very important to hear what he was saying, because we forget about the families and loved ones who are left behind, and how, many of the family members have to deal with it, especially the children of the teachers, because here in Korea, most of the time, people just feel like they have to deal with that pain on their own, and many don't seek professional help. And so it's important for him to ask the South Korean government to give support and help to the family members here, too.
Yeah, which something which, I'd like you to elaborate on, Yun Suk, because 1 year on, based on a survey, 8 out of 10 teachers in Seoul say that there's been not much change in the protection of teachers' rights. Even 5% said that, in fact, it got worse. So how exactly are the authorities responding, to this?
Well, they have put measures in place after the death of that teacher, but it is true, and experts did say that, it was going to take time for them to have any impact really on the teachers. Now, this is not an overnight solution to this, but at least experts were saying that the measures are there now, and teachers know that they are going to be able to get more protection from their schools and the South Korean government. But it's a shame that they haven't been able to feel this impact yet. And in fact, the teachers' unions recently conducted another survey, and according to that survey of about 1,000 teachers in the capital Seoul, about 78% said that parents' attitudes had not changed, while about 79% said that they had experienced abuse by parents, just like that teacher who died last year. Now, at that memorial event yesterday, there was no mention of those survey, but the Education Minister Lee Ji-ho was there too, and he gave a short speech, and let's hear what he had to say in that speech.
선생님의 정당한 교육 활동을 보호하는 것이 곧 우리 아이들의 배움의 권리를 보호하는 것이기에 가는 길이 어렵더라도 우리는 끝까지 걸어갈 것입니다. 선생님 여러분, 한 뜻으로 함께 모인 오늘을 기억하겠습니다. 그리고 선생님께서 홀로 어려움과 마주하지 않도록 교육부도 함께 걸어가겠습니다.
And he also said that the voices of teachers desperately calling for help and restoration of teachers' rights last summer still remained very heavy in his heart and also the hearts of South Koreans. And so I think it does, because it is an incident that many still here are talking about and have not been able to forget.
And that's clearly reflected in the story that we did, last week, which has reached 460,000 views on YouTube and also generated a lot of comments, as we've mentioned. And I thought we would just sort of pick up on that, run through some of the comments. And one viewer, interestingly commented that slapping a teacher, because in my times I'll be thrown out on the street by my own parents for such disrespect. Yun Suk, do we then have any updates on the student who actually slapped that principal a month ago? I mean, was disciplinary action taken, or has this incident actually set a precedent for similar behavior among other students?
Well, it has. I mean, according to reports here, the student's mother apparently went back to the school after that incident where her child slapped the vice principal and voiced complaints against the school and even abused the son's school teacher. Now, education authorities at that northern province of Jeolla, where that incident took place, filed charges against the mother as a possible case of child abuse by neglect. Now, apparently the school had told the mother several times that the boy needed help, but she chose to ignore that advice, and the police says that measures have been taken against this mother. Now, according to the Child Abuse Punishment Act here in South Korea, there are various measures that the police can take against the abuser, and those measures range from 1 to 7, with 7 being the most severe, if it is deemed necessary to protect the abused child. Now, in this case, apparently the mother was imposed with Number 5 Protection Act, which means that the mother will be receiving counseling and education at a child protection agency. Now, news reports also was saying that the student was temporarily suspended for about 10 days from school, but this is not the first time for the student to be expelled or to be, disciplinary action been taken against the student. Apparently, he also has problems in other schools because he had to change schools about 7 times in the recent years. And so it seems like, teachers there had been giving the mother advice, but she just didn't take it.
Wow, changed schools 7 times. That does say something about the student. We're getting other online reaction where some people are saying, what kind of society will South Korea become if elementary students are allowed to act so inappropriately? And it's good to see that there have been some measures on a range of 1 to 7 that they've put in place. But how do you see these behavior, for instance, shaping societal norms and values in the long run if they go unchecked?
Well, I must say that this incident is not what you will see in normal schools. I mean, this is a special case, and that's why it caused a huge alarm here in South Korea, too, among South Koreans. And many were saying, surely this is not what's happening in our schools every day. And so it is a rare case. But then, teachers I spoke to did say that they were not surprised. And though it might not be to, that extreme of a student slapping the vice principal, there are lots of abuses against teachers by parents and students, too, who now think that they can get away with it and that their parents will still support them. But having said that, I'd like to point out that respect for teachers here in South Korea still do exist. In fact, there's a Teachers' Day, which falls on May 15th, and it's a day when parents and students all gather to show their appreciation to teachers. And so respect for teachers by South Koreans here still exists, and many still believe that should exist here in South Korea. So I do want to point out that this is a rare case here in Korea.
Well, good to know, Yun Suk, that is a rare case. It's heartening to know that. But despite that, the number of newly hired teachers, though, this year has declined by over 50% compared to 2014. And on top of it, the average monthly salary is just, $1,900. So I'm wondering, how is teaching seen as a rewarding career in South Korea?
Well, no, not many people want to be a teacher here in South Korea these days. I mean, there was a time when Koreans, their dream was to become a teacher because they just felt that it was something that they wanted to do, but it was safe. And they had the respect. There used to be a saying here in Korea that people would not even walk in the shadows of a teacher, showing how much respect they had for the teachers. But, another reason for the decline in the teachers here in South Korea is not because of this abuse by the parents, but because of this low birth rate in South Korea. There are lots of South Korean schools, elementary schools, even here in the capital Seoul, that are closing because they just don't have enough students to be in that classroom. And that's why they're hiring less teachers. And so that's also, one of the reasons why you see less teachers being hired here in South Korea.
Well, thanks for pointing that out. I mean, low birth rates certainly contributing to less teachers as well. CNA's senior correspondent in Seoul, Lim Yun Suk, always good speaking with you.